So I don't want to have to make this video, but there's been a lot of things that came out recently that I've kind of wanted to talk about and cover. You know, I like video games. I like covering video games. You know, there's not a whole lot for me to talk about here that you probably haven't heard somewhere else, but you know, I have a couple things and points that I want to add into the discussion. Obviously, a lot of you have probably heard that the Steam machine, that its prices were recently announced, and I've been wanting to make a video about that on its own for a little bit, but I've been backed up with work and stuff. But I think it kind of worked out because there's a bunch of other things that kind of just tie directly into this. There's been a lot of discussion and debate on the pricing of the Steam machine as it has been announced, and more than anything, I think there's been a lot of disappointment. So the Steam machine's prices have been announced, and for a lot of people, they're trying to say that it's way higher than they expected, with a 500 gigabyte model for $1,049, basically $1,050, a 2 terabyte model for essentially $1,350. I think a lot of people were anticipating like maybe $700 or maybe even an $800 range. However, there's a lot of people like myself that really were expecting $1,000. I definitely was, because we knew that the Steam machine was aiming to be more towards the lines of ease of access, PC, if you will, more than it is a actual console. It did kind of blow out my expectations with the price, not because of the price, but because of the actual Steam machine itself. For example, its performance is only supposed to be that of a bit better than Xbox Series X and the regular PlayStation. I'm not even sure that it actually reaches PS5 Pro level, which I think, in all honesty, I think that this thing needs to be at least PS5 Pro level, maybe even a little bit better, for it to really have stood out and been like, yeah, this is going to be a competitor and a real player in the next generation of video game consoles, and that Steam would be sitting there, you know, pretty much. I would have told you that Steam was going to dominate, especially the fact that it kind of integrates it in a PC way, so that way you've got more options to have a lot more games that are PC only. You have a lot more graphical settings options than you do with console. For 512 gigabytes at the same time, that's, I thought the base model at least needs to be a terabyte at this point. I don't think, what are we doing? What are we doing with 512 gigabyte consoles? With the Steam machine, you know, the Xbox Series S, anything like that. I don't think with any of these past generations, we should not have even been considering 500 gigabytes as an option. One game can be over 100 gigabytes. That means you can have less than, if those are the games you play, you can have less than 5 games. It doesn't make any sense. Now, the performance being what it is, I don't know, you know, that you could talk about the Steam machine is a conversation on its own all day, but the truth is, it's gonna sell. Is it gonna sell nearly like I thought it would? Probably not, but it's definitely gonna sell. It's a very interesting type of thing. I mean, Valve even says themselves, like, yo, if you can't afford it and this ain't for you, then build a PC. Like, they're not pushing this, you know. This isn't their ace in the hole or something. This isn't what they're just trying to do, what they do and give people different options. At the end of the day, Steam is still one of the only people pushing for consumer first, unlike Microsoft and Sony. Which brings me into the next topic of discussion. As upset as people were about the Steam machine's prices being over $1,000, I've been saying this for a hot minute. If you think that the next generation of consoles will be under $1,000, I have bad news for you. The PlayStation 6 already being rumored to be over $1,000. I promise you, we've already heard little rumors about what the next Xbox is going to be, and they're also leaning towards a luxury, more high-end Xbox PC style console that might even be Steam integrated. And I mean, if these are the cases, I definitely think Xbox might even be the pricier of the two. But if PlayStation is looking at over $1,000 already, you just be happy and hopeful that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X continue to last for some time. We gotta hope for that, because I mean, I don't think I would support or tell anybody to go jumping right ahead and buying the next generation of consoles anytime too soon, until we get a better feel of where the environment and the ecosystem of gaming is going to be. I know people are going to jump to buy these consoles anyway, but if you look at PlayStation, for example, which is the big one, everyone wants to, you know, up PlayStation, say that PlayStation won the console war. Well, I find it very interesting, because PlayStation won the console war just to pretty much take a huge shit on everybody immediately afterwards. That's where we're at right now, because not only is it heavily rumored that the PlayStation 6 is going to be over $1,000, but they just put out these announcements where they're ending physical games. We're not talking about like what Xbox did on Xbox One, where they wanted to, end sales and trade for used games, where once you bought a game, you were the only one that could use it. No, no, no. We're not even talking about the new future generations where, they try and push digital sales so they have cheaper models of their consoles that don't come with disc drives. We're finally past that. PlayStation has officially announced that they will be completely ending physical games. It says here, physical disc production ending January 2028 for new games releasing on PlayStation consoles. Now, basically, I'm not going to get into all this. If you want to know more about it, you can read this article, go to their Twitter, PlayStation, and you only got to scroll a couple down. You can find their links to this article and the next article that we'll be talking about. But essentially, they're telling you that they're going to be just no longer creating physical mediums for their games, essentially funneling everybody to nearly being forced completely to purchase video games on their digital storefronts. A lot of people are already digital and they probably saw this coming a mile away. This news isn't really what they consider to be something to think too much about, but they're just going to have all say when it comes to video games and their prices. GTA 6 physical game copies are just going to come with a game code inside the box, which is already disgusting in itself, but you could try and say, I guess, that you own it because you have that game code. If that game code maybe, was pretty much reusable infinitely, but all that needs to happen is for some reason, that game gets removed off of the digital storefront, then what good does that code do you? It's still not true ownership. Even when you had to install the disc, at least you had the disc to install the game from the disc, right? They do say that like this won't affect certain games that are coming out between now and this transition has no impact on games that are already released or will be releasing prior to January 2028. But with this news, we have this article where they talk about shutting down the PlayStation 3 and PS Vita store. Now, this isn't uncommon. We've been seeing this over and over again. The Xbox 360 storefront has been closed. Game storefront on the Nintendo DS has been closed. This happens, right? Which, okay, so we could say that closing down these storefronts really isn't that big of a deal, but they have absolutely no announcements or no reassurances whatsoever that they're going to be doing anything like backwards compatibility or ensuring that these games will be able to be added into the PlayStation 5 storefronts. So pretty much they're telling you buy your PlayStation 3 games now, because by these dates right here, the storefront will be closed, which you'll see here that if you live in Nicaragua or Mexico, it will be August 2026, next month, literally next month, that you will no longer be able to use the Playfront store. The United States and Europe and Australia and stuff, it seems, will be getting to go all the way through for the next year, for one more year till July 2027. So pretty much buy your PlayStation 3 games that you want now, because that's it. Do you think it stops there? I mean, look, we got a whole list right here. What has PlayStation been doing? Raising console prices. We've seen this with Xbox too. This was a fun one. See, they removed over 500 movies without any kind of refund from the PlayStation store. They just removed them from people's libraries because of licensing issues. It's not that these movies were taken off of the storefront. Xbox actually just did this. They ended the Xbox video library or video store that you could buy and purchase movies off of Xbox through their Microsoft store. They removed that from Xbox. But on Xbox, you can still go to the store and watch the movies that you've already bought. For now, anyway. We'll just say for now, because they might end that someday too. But no, what did PlayStation do? They removed those movies without refunding people, because they literally actually took the movies out of people's libraries. That's crazy. This is the times that we live in. This is what they mean by you don't have ownership. 7 studios acquired since 2020, and 5 of them are already shut down. That sounds very familiar as well. Over here at Xbox, you'll see here that Microsoft themselves are closing Arcane Austin, Tango Gameworks, and Alpha Dog Games. And right now they're also talking about Undead Labs being closed down as a possibility. From what I understand, Microsoft buys up Undead Labs, starts making one of the most hyped games ever in at least in indie game territory, which was State of Decay 3, and it was extremely hyped. And now they're talking about closing down the studio. I do think we will see State of Decay 3, don't get me wrong, but will that mean that there's no hope for State of Decay 4? Will State of Decay as an IP get transferred to a different studio? Who knows, man? Not to mention that State of Decay on its own, State of Decay 3 has got a boycott going on. That's a topic in its own. That's a discussion for an entirely different time. But here we are. But let's get into why. Let's hear the reason. This is the kicker, right? This is the shit right here. This is what everyone loves to hear, man. These changes are grounded in prioritizing high impact titles and further investing in Bethesda's portfolio of blockbuster games and beloved worlds, which you have nurtured over many decades. Lays off over 1,900 workers. Listen, yes, okay, beloved worlds for many decades, the Fallout universe and the Elder Scrolls universe, which pretty much, that's two worlds. While plural, correct, yes, there's only two worlds. And I think if you gave most of any gamers the opportunity to say, oh, well, you only get to play two video game series ever again, and those are Elder Scrolls and Fallout, there might be a couple people that are cool with that, but I think the overwhelming majority would be extremely heartbroken and destroyed if that were to happen. Closing studios to focus on singular studios list of blockbuster games is absolutely ridiculous. Not to mention that this is a studio that is releasing incompetent and disappointing games left and right, with maybe, you know, Doom being the outlier in that situation, right? Fallout 76, sure, they've kind of come in and redeemed themselves a little bit. It only took forever, but people are tired of it. People don't want online Fallout like that, not nearly as much. They just don't care, you know? What people want is Fallout 5. That's what people want. Or a Fallout New Vegas 2, right? That's what people want, okay? We don't want more. We don't really care too much about more updates for Fallout 76. I'm sure some people do, but that's the only time we ever hear about Fallout besides the TV show from these people, right? And then Elder Scrolls. We've been hearing about Elder Scrolls 6 longer than we've been hearing about GTA 6. I'm always hearing that joke, right? We got XYZ before GTA 6. Ha ha ha. Well, we got GTA 6 before Elder Scrolls 6. We've been waiting on Elder Scrolls for even longer than GTA, by like 2 years. So that's the state of things, man. The Xbox, you better believe it's also going to be at least $1,000, maybe even more, probably more than expensive than the PlayStation, because of the angle they're trying to go with it being a PC hybrid, right? But now that leaves one question: where are we in the gaming space? I feel like we're in a very weird gray area where these huge companies want to make these massive moves and just dominate everything, buying all of these different studios. Everything is coming into question about pushing the you own nothing and you're going to be happy about it. You've got Xbox was almost shining for a minute there when Asha Sharma came in and had this beautiful review of her, you know, essential game plan or whatever, and, you know, rebranding, taking the Xbox brand, trying to bring it back to what it was, the thing that made Xbox cool, possible exclusives again, that amazing Xbox showcase, actually rolling back the Game Pass prices, unheard of. It just seemed like Xbox was finally going to have its time to shine. Is it all just a shadow? Is it all just good PR? Is it all just good marketing? You know, maybe it's good on the surface, but in the end, we're going to like reap even worse consequences. So I guess this is where I would like to close on, you know, because this is more me venting at this point. Like, this is crazy. This is just crazy to me that this is where we're at. It's almost like I would just tell anybody that if you want to become a gamer or continue down the path of gaming, if you can, next generations, get a PC. There's problems with PC too, but there's a lot more workarounds with those problems, right? If you really wanted to get into gaming or ask where you're going next for gaming and you're anywhere in the console space, I would say build your own PC. You can build a decent PC for under $1,000 that will do more than the Steam machine. So you know, you can set graphics settings and this and that, but at least you'll be able to play your games. The Steam library, Steam store, and everything, it's one of the only things. Valve is one of the only companies out here making sure that there's some kind of light within this time of just absolute shadows. And I mean, even then, they're not entirely flawless either. Like what I would suggest people do is, you know, hang tight. We got at least 2 years or so before the next generation of consoles really actually starts coming out, and I think we just need to sit and hold out the tide, because it's only a matter of time before these top dogs aren't able to hold their top place anymore, because they think that because they hold these positions that people are just going to sit around and take the dog shit that they're fed, and they're not. The amount of people willing to pay $1,000 for a console are far few in between. And we're not talking about the Steam Deck. I promise you. This is just relate back to this video when the actual price for the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 6 and the new Xbox come out. I promise you. I mean, the PlayStation 5 Pro is already pretty much $900. The Xbox Series X is pretty much $800, and they're only going up. You think a more powerful, more advanced console is going to be anything less than $1,000? I'm thinking 1,200, 1,300 just for a base model. That's if we're lucky. But anyway, yeah, I just say sit tight, show the support to these indie developers that are out here trying to do us right and making good games and stuff that people actually want. And, you know, just keep doing you, and hopefully this will all find its place soon, settle up soon. You know, we can get back to companies realizing that they can't just forget about the consumer. They can't just spit in our face and expect us to just run along with whatever they agree with or whatever they want to do without paying some form of consequences, without people eventually turning their backs. But either way, y'all take it easy, stay safe out there. It's rough, man. Save your money and, you know, take care of yourselves. Peace out, man.